Okay, so panel, it may sound like a good thing, an okay thing to say that peace in itself cannot be achieved in the long run. Therefore, anything that we can do to defend ourselves, even if it brings us to the brink of war, is something that we should pursue. But I'll prove to you why even as much as peace in itself may sound ideal and something that cannot be achieved, countries should be working towards it rather than backtracking on them. That is very important. And about how the whole issue about the slightest provocation, I'll tell you about how even after the effects of World War II, the world has been structured in a way to ensure and then protect peace at all times, and it's something that nations should not be going back upon. I'll tell you about how, in as much as we seek for the protection of our citizens, that is what OO is trying to argue, that we should prioritize the protection of our citizens all over the peace, all about that of the peace of the world. I'll tell you about how even the citizens in themselves are not protected even in this, and even how the peace in the world is also not achieved. So what this guy says is that we cannot have peace totally at the end. Let us therefore arm ourselves. We say that countries don't operate on the assumption of wanting war, that at any point in time we are ready for war, yes, but then we operate on the verge of us moving towards a more ideal nature of peace, of us having peace all over the world. That is the whole essence of globalization and the whole essence of democratization, where we try to ensure that countries in themselves engage in a way to ensure peace all around the world. That is why we all abhor rogue states, and that explains it. Then he says that being passive in itself is a myth. But then being passive in itself is a form of protection that comes upon countries. In as much as some countries use deterrence with having nuclear weapons and so on and so forth, there are certain countries like Ghana, and you can mention a lot of countries who, just by the fact that they do not have nuclear weapons, attract a certain level of empathy or support. That is why in this case he mentions to you South Korea. So that equally in itself is a protectionist measure, and you should not downplay it on any other day. But then let me tackle this issue about the global nature of this. First, he says that we should prioritize the defense of our citizens all over the peace that we can get all over the world, or the protection of everyone in the world. I'll take you later. But then I prove to you that in as much as you try to protect your citizens, the nature of a nuclear war is different, and it's very unique in the sense that there is a certain level of assured destruction. So even if in the end you build up or amass nuclear weapons for yourself, you cannot certainly defend your citizens from harm. What you are going to get is a certain level of assured destruction on both sides. Therefore, you do not get the protection for your citizens, even as you try to do. But then secondly, and more importantly, you should realize that Japan in itself is a part of the global community. Therefore, in all of its interests, it should be contributing to the global interest in itself. It is never in the global interest to amass nuclear weapons or to proliferate war. There's even a certain level of deproliferation or reducing the amount of nuclear weapons in the world. And Japan is a prime or one of the key players in it, just because of their stance on nuclear weapons, and therefore they cannot go back on this. More on my analysis before that, Karim.
I want to ask how the natural citizen in the face of distress that other countries present is still something that we need to do by.
You told us that South Korea is assuredly protected just because of their passivity, but then in the end you want to disprove Japan from having these things. We'll prove to you why, even if in the end you have all the capacity to produce nuclear weapons, it doesn't mean you should pursue these things, okay? The whole example of South Korea plays onto our sides to the extent that you can still be protected if you do not have nuclear weapons. Therefore, we will not buy that analogy. Number one, VJ analyzes to you about the threshold of threat. Karim mischaracterizes that when he tells you that actually there is threat. We agree on our side that there is threat. There is threat also to South Korea. There is threat also to all of the world. What we are talking about is the degree of threat, or the threshold at which we should allow countries to amass nuclear weapons to protect themselves. Therefore, for example, with Israel, we've granted them a certain level of opacity because we've seen intention by the Hamas, and we've seen direct harm being caused on their side. We've seen the kind of enemies that surround them, and we've seen the devastating effects of what it brings. Okay, but then in the case of Japan, we've seen a country like South Korea which has been equally protected even without having nuclear weapons. Therefore, counting a country like Japan who does not have that level of threshold of threat to say you are okay to build weapons will justify every other country that has a higher degree of threat to it to build up weapons once they have the capacity, and we don't think this is wrong on any day. Number two, it tells you about a national principle, which they try to trivialize in this debate, in as much as it is. Principles are very important. It tells you that it's a basis for international support. As I told you about how empathy in itself is a protection for us, I told you about how there are major actors in the global nuclear deproliferation program in itself. Then number three, it told you about efforts as the races are now to reduce the number of nuclear weapons in the world. Therefore, it's very important that we do not backtrack on some of these things. Then four, and most importantly, the whole principle of MAD, or mutually assured destruction, lies on the basis of heightened tensions. In the sense that your actions that you are going to take as of now is going to further heighten tensions and trigger North Korea to act. Should you in the end go ahead to do it just because you are able to protect your citizens? Panel, I've already taken you guys. This is very important. Just because you have the capacity to protect your citizens, should you contribute to global actions that in the end threaten not only you but then the whole world, and you say just because I can protect my people? More on this, more on pragmatics. As of now, it is going to be very difficult to effectively develop nuclear weapons to the point where you protect yourself. The thing with nuclear weapons, as I told you, it's not about self-defense, okay? It's about impact. The fact is, both of you are going to be destroyed, and we think that the whole essence of nuclear weapons is about deterrence. Even as he told you that the fact that this country has it deters one another. But then in this instance, North Korea has proven to you how deterrence in itself is never a factor for it. North Korea is never deterred by Japan having nuclear weapons. If it wants to bomb, it's going to bomb whether you have nuclear weapons or not. Okay, so we think it plays into North Korea's whole natural plan of having countries being armed and having a certain level of justification for releasing nuclear weapons and for having war. And we do not think Japan should contribute to a war where in the end it has the capacity to protect itself from major harm. We think that wars may happen, but we think that we should move towards a world where when war happens, there's going to be a certain minimal impact that happens on the world, and there's a certain level of recovery that may happen. We think that when countries are moving towards having much more nuclear weapons, that level of recovery is something that we are never going to get at any point in time. We told you about how a certain level of honor should be given to the victims, in the sense that we should not act like we contribute to the state of the victims and to contribute to our plight even as a nation, in the sense that when you now produce nuclear weapons, you tell the people that it's okay, whatever that happened to you, we have a hand in it, and we don't think we care so much about you. We think that there should be a certain level of principled consistency. We've told you about the pragmatics, how it will be essentially difficult on the basis that the international bodies are clamping down on countries that have nuclear weapons. We think that when you have the capacity to protect yourself, it doesn't mean you should contribute effectively to something that will trigger a world war and say you do not care.